Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back again to my channel. And this is Networking King, and this is Kenneth with you right here. Today, we are going to talk about VPN protocols. The last time we talked about VPN protocol, but we just gave headlines. We mentioned the protocols without touching them, without, explaining in detail the nitty-gritty of it. So today what we are going to do is to pick them one by one and talk about them today. So let's start with what we have. Now let's talk about the VPN itself. I just want us to talk about VPN a little. Let's let us cast our mind back on what we did the last time. The last time I talked about VPN advantages and disadvantages, and we talked about the three deployments of VPN, that is the site to site, the host to site, and the host to host. This is something that we've talked about, so I don't need to touch on it again. Please, if you want to know what we talked about, just visit my previous tutorial and you will understand what we said concerning VPN. Now let us move on. Let's start with the protocols. The last time we were talking about protocol, and what I said was that protocol simply stands for, or the meaning of protocol in networking is that protocols are a set of rules. They are a set of rules that governs network. That governs network. Now, let us Google the meaning of protocol here. You'll get to understand the meaning of protocol. As I said earlier on, we are learning, so there is no need for us to do things as if you know everything. No, we are learning. So let's start with this protocol, definition of protocol. Let's see. I'm still checking it. I don't like this one. I want Wikipedia. Okay, let's see. Wikipedia. Okay, in telecommunications, a communication protocol is a system of rules that allow two or more entities or a communication system to transmit information via any kind of variation of a physical quantity. As I said, there's a set of rules that governs what they call it, network. Let us read here. Most recent protocols are assigned by the IETF and Internet Communication and the IEEE. So in our or the ISO organization for other types. In our video, in subsequent videos that we'll be doing, you will see me mentioning IEEE. IEEE, it's a standard name. It's a standard. I would say a standard board. They see to that what you are doing is good. It will help. Technology. That's their way. So let us move on and let us go back to our protocols. So as we have explained protocol and the meaning of protocol, now we know protocol. What is protocol? We know what is VPN. As I said, VPN is virtual private network. For VPN, it simply means if you want to communicate to someone and you don't want people to see your communication, that's when there is a need of VPN. That means private communication or private network. So you create a private network over a public network, which is the internet. Now let us move on with what we have for you. So I said, if someone wants to communicate or use the VPN, and definitely that person needs to use certain protocols, because you can never use a VPN without a protocol. You need to have one protocol in place, and each and every one of them has its own requirement. So let's see. In this video, we are going to talk about some common VPN protocols that helps us to get data over the network or across the network. Let's start off by saying I want to go to maybe the United States. If I want to go to the United States, I need to travel by sea or by air. If I need to travel by sea, I need to get a ship. If I need to travel by air, I need to get an aeroplane. Yeah, that is it. The same way we need to, the same way this one also works. If you want to go in for the PPP, you need to have in place what you need to do. If you want to go in for the L2TP, you need to have in mind what you need to have. So let's start with the PPP. The PPP simply stands for point to point protocol. I know those who are in Ghana will say a political party is an abbreviation for a political party right here in Ghana, but I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about point to point protocol. There's a point to point protocol, and these are for the PPP. It does the following things. For the PPP, it authenticates, it compresses, it detects error, it's a multi-link. But one thing it doesn't do is that for the PPP, it does not do encryption. There is no encryption in this case. So when data is being sent, the data is not being encrypted. So if someone is able to penetrate, the person will see the data or the packets. It's not being encrypted. You know, it has a long history. For the PPP, it has a long history. It's being used, I mean, in more physical network environments. Yeah, physical network like telephone lines, mobile phones, serial cables, a whole lot of modems. And you need to know that when there is one thing you need to know, if there is a modem connection that needs to connect to another modem connection, then PPP makes sense. Yeah, the use of PPP really makes sense. It also works at the OSI layer 2. We will talk about the OSI. Please don't freak out. OSI layer 2. So basically, that is what we have concerning PPP. And PPP also needs more functionalities for remote access over IP or internet. So to use it on over IP or internet, you need to get a lot of things in place. It needs a lot of functionalities. That is it. Let's move on to the PPTP. For the PPTP is a combination of I would say two protocols. We have one we call the PPP, and we have one we call the GRE. It's a combination of both. And it also uses something we call the MSCHAMP, HAP version 2, and the EAPTLS. Let me take it in the MSCHAP version 2 and the EAPTLS. I've mentioned like 4. I will explain each and every one of them under the PPTP. For the PPTP, as I said, is older. It's a Microsoft centric tunnel protocol. Yeah, that works under the TCP port 1723. Yes, it uses the GRE IP protocol value 47 for tunnel, and also uses MPPE for encryption. Now let us talk about it. For the PPTP, it controls the tunnel. It uses the GRE, which is known as the generic routing and encapsulation. Generic routing and encapsulation to do the tunneling. As I said, it controls the tunnel. It uses this GRE to, do the tunneling, and also use PPP, that's the point-to-point protocol, to what? To send multi-protocol traffic through the GRE tunnels. Sending multi-protocol traffic, for the sending, it uses the PPP and uses the GRE to create a tunnel. That is it. That's the tunnel. And also uses these two protocols I'm about to mention for authentication and encapsulation or encryption. It uses the MSCHAP version 2, that is Microsoft Challenge Handshake authentication protocol version 2 for authentication, and uses EAP/TLS, that's extensible authentication protocol transport layer security for encryption. Also, encryption is also being done by the PPPE, as I encrypted the data with Microsoft point-to-point encryption. That's the MPPE. It's called Microsoft point-to-point encryption. And also, as I said, it works under the IP protocol value 47. So these are the things we have under the PPTP. Let us move on to the L2TP. For the L2TP, I won't talk much about it. It's very good, very compact, very secured, very compact. It combines two protocols. It combines the PPTP and combines the L2TP. The L2TP is an old Cisco protocol, and the PPTP is what we touched on. Uses these two and works. It works under the TCP port 1701. It uses IPsec and IKE for encryption. So that is what we know about L2TP. Let us come to the IPsec. But before I move on to IPsec, I should have moved this one here and move IPsec down. So let us touch on the SSL VPN, that is the secure socket layer. I think so. I think I got it right. Yes, secure socket layer virtual private network. For the secure socket layer virtual private network, there is no firewall. There is no need of firewalls. No big VPN clients like the others. You use a VPN consider. This one you just need a software, and normally the SSL is being done within a host and a host, between a host and a host. Yeah, that's when you have a laptop at the office and you have a computer in your house and you want to access it. That's when you need to have a client, a VPN client, those light clients like a VPN book and others. And you register and they will get you access to your machine at home. You know, you can use it on your browsers, and these little light clients can use them, and also authenticate users. No requirement for digital certificates, online like the IPsec and the rest. And there is no shared password like IPsec and IKE. Can be run from browsers, as I mentioned earlier on. Usually light VPN clients also can help you. It's also across many operating systems. So with this, there are these operating systems that comes. I'm using Windows 10. Let me show you one that I can. You see, when I go to settings, I have this. I have a VPN here. I can connect to VPN. You see it? I have VPN here, and I can add a VPN connection. As I click add, you can see built in, and I can fill in the details, and I will just bam hit the VPN. So that is it for SSL. Let us move on to the IPsec. For the IPsec, it's a high-end security. High-end security. IPsec simply stands for Internet Protocol Security. IPsec is being used in high companies, big companies. I would say big. Let me use the word big. I wanted to say high-end machines, but no, big companies where there is the need to secure data, and there is between, I would say, a site. Let me say, is it a site and I would say a site and a site. Between a site and a site, there is a need for IPsec. Let's talk about IPsec. It works. It's a security on the OSI layer 3. That is the layer where we can find routers. Authentication and encryption under this protocol is very important, and it encrypts every packet. It encrypts and authenticates every packet. Confidentiality and integrity, you know, you have it under this protocol. There is a confidentiality and integrity. You can, trust IPsec that it will do your security work for you. Anti-replay with IPsec, it makes sure that no one, because of the signing, encryption, and the packet signing, it makes sure that each and every packet that is being sent across the tunnel or across the network is being used and used once. So there is no replay. If there is a replay, people who are into hacking can replay your packet and see what is within and see what is inside. Very standardized, common to use, and it is a multi-vendor implementation. When I talk about multi-vendor implementation, what I mean is that a lot of vendors like Cisco, Macintosh, Linux, Microsoft, are compatible with IPsec. IPsec, they are compatible with it, and IPsec uses these two protocols for its authentication and encryption. It uses one we call the AH, and the other is ESP. The A simply stands for authentication header. It uses for authentication, and it uses something called the ESP. The ESP is encapsulation security payload. Let me show you. We mentioned that ESP in our last video. This is the ESP. You see, this ESP is what we know as the encapsulation security payload. As we have the PPP here, the PPP, I explained it earlier on. So that is what we can talk about. But before then, let us see. I've been mentioning protocol TCP. I've been mentioning ports. I was mentioning port. For me, I see ports. My understanding of ports is like it's a service address to the computer or the what do you call the server. It's a service address which channels traffic. Yeah, that's it. There's it. I talk about ports. Let's see. Ports. You see, we have ports here. We have TCP, and we have description. What it does, you can see it over there. We have the port. We have the UDP. I've been mentioning UDP. You see, I mentioned UDP here. As I said, for the IPsec, it works under it uses the IKE to create VPN tunnel under the UDP 500. Can break NAT because it tunnels more due to IP header encryption. For that one, I don't need to talk about it much. So we will draw the curtains down on VPN protocols. I'm done with VPN protocols. Catch me some other time in my latest video that I'm about to release. Never mind, drop your comments. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'm here and I'll stay with you. Stay blessed and don't do things I wouldn't do. God bless us all, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Bye.